What the fuck are you doing here? There's no new music to talk about. Not this week. I mean, there's Devin Townsend, but I didn't get a promo copy for that. Go! Wait. Is it that time of the year? What day is it today?
Oh my god. The time has come. It's time to talk about the top 10 best metal albums of 2021. Why is it so dark in here? Let's turn on the lights. Booyah! Let's go!
We'll just put this back on the shelf since that bit is over, and since it is finally time to talk about the 10 best metal albums of 2021, or perhaps more specifically, my top 10 favorite metal albums of 2021. And what a hell of a year it has been. Nearly every subgenre loaded with killer tunes. Every month, every week, every fucking day. It legitimately got hard to keep track of how many wild and rambunctious and ambitious and exciting tunes there were in 2021. But we did it. Somehow, I compromised a bit of my fucking sanity, but we did it. Somehow. Y'all should know the ground rules by now, but just in case, allow me to quickly go over them. 1. This is not a ranked or numbered list. I am talking about 10 of my favorite albums in order of release, and I will let you know what my favorite or perhaps favorites are when we arrive to it or them. Second, if the album has not been featured in any capacity on the Metal Meltdown, be it in an album review or even in a segment of an Albums I Missed video, it is not fucking eligible. Why is that? Why, it's because I don't think it's fair to comment on music that I haven't listened to. That's fucking why. Why would anyone fucking do that? That's weird. And the final rule, or more appropriately, reminder, is that this is my top 10, not yours. And that's fine. I am not God. My word is not the law. Do not freak out if you feel I missed something, because you're going to have your own top 10, and it's probably going to look at least a little bit different. And that's a good thing. First things first, though, I've got a few honorable mentions. Albums that are fantastic, and at one point were on this list, but unfortunately did not make the final cut. The first of these records is Phantom Indigo, debut album from Sepetus, featuring members of Pyron, Imperial Triumphant. It is an incredibly colorful, evocative blast of avant-garde and technical death metal. It is weird, immersive, emotionally charged. Loved it. Unfortunately, there's one tech death album that I thought was just a little bit better in 2021, hence why it is not on the final list. Second honorable mention is The Nightmare of Being from At the Gates, proving that some old dogs can indeed learn new tricks. The band have infused their signature brew of Swedish melodic death metal fury with new influences from art rock, alternative rock, jazz, progressive rock, krautrock, bringing in spoken word sections, saxophones, string quartets, keyboards, and synthesizers. It's wild. It's funky, it's oh so fucking cool, and as usual, delivers the typical headbanging tunes one would expect of At the Gates at this fucking point in time. And the third honorable mention is Deceiver, the fourth studio album from Chemis, one of the best modern doom metal bands out there. This album from start to finish is filled with soaring vocals, triumphant, epic lead guitars, the production is fantastic, the scope is remarkable. Nuclear Blast Records clearly putting a lot of money and a lot of resources into Chemis, and Chemis clearly using all of that very fucking wisely. Had it been as monumental as previous records like Hunted or Desolation, I may have found a way to squeeze it into the final top 10, but it wasn't, so I didn't. But don't take it personally, Chemis, because y'all still put out some killer fucking tunes. That much I'm sure we can all agree on. And now with that out of the way, let's finally get into my top 10 best metal albums of 2021. The first of which is Where the Gloom Becomes Sound from Tribulation. My ass and mind have been kicked and blown respectively by Tribulation ever since 2013 when I saw them open for Watain and In Solitude at the Opera House on Thanksgiving weekend of all fucking times. And while I have thoroughly enjoyed their material as they've continued to evolve on records like Children of the Night and Down Below, Where the Gloom Becomes Sound appears to have struck me in a much different way and holds a much different place in my heart than those respective records, because quite frankly, I don't remember the last time I heard a black metal album this fucking catchy, this slick, this mysterious, this sexy, yet still genuinely catchy. Every riff, every hook, every melody, every beat, every soundscape, every moment of sonic bliss on this record has been drilled into my memory like a crown up Homer Simpson's nose. And despite that, everything still feels genuinely evil and ominous. The production cloaks everything in a thick, supernatural veil that the album wears proudly, like some kind of vampire warlord. The album has such a chilling and sensual atmosphere created by the aforementioned production, created by the ritualistic lyrics, by the incredible performances, by Tribulation's now iconic fusion of melodic black metal and gothic rock and metal. It's just a stunning record from start to finish. I've probably played this more than a lot of other records on this list, if we're being honest. It's just so fucking captivating, so catchy. I fucking love it. It's addictive. Check it out if you somehow haven't already. I mean, who knows? It came out really early in the year, so it might have passed you by. You might have even forgotten about it, and that's fine. That's why I'm telling you now. It's an amazing album. Go check it out. I'm doing you a favor, buddy. The second album in my top 10 is Imperative Imperceptible Impulse from Ad Nauseam, the sophomore album from this Italian technical and avant-garde death metal band didn't just break the rules of technical and avant-garde death metal, it broke the rules of music theory to the point where Ad Nauseam had to go out of their way to create new tunings, new time signatures, new ways of composing and presenting music that is unique to this album. As a result, Ad Nauseam was able to create something truly unique, something truly uncomfortable, brazen, chaotic, confusing, almost on par with Obscura from Gorguts. Though I would argue almost objectively more unlistenable. I mean, let's just be brutally honest here. Unless you're a fucking psychopath or you hate your family or yourself, you're never gonna play this, you know, at some kind of holiday function, at a family barbecue, at a party. This isn't getting added to your workout playlist. This isn't something you're playing alone by yourself at night with a glass of wine. This is incredibly fucked up music that requires an absolutely fucked up state of mind. Hence why I love it. It's DIY in the truest fucking sense. It doesn't really get more DIY than this, nor does the music get more intense, more unique, more ambitious, and more fucking powerful. I mean, the composition work on this still blows my mind. The production still blows my mind. The performances still blow my mind. I'm not really sure what's actually happening across a majority of this album, but I know that it blows my fucking mind. It's so dense and complicated that I simply don't have the time right now to really dissect why exactly I love this album. Thank God I did an album review with that in mind. I guess you could check that out if you really wanted to. All you need to know is I love this album. It's on this list. It's one of the best albums of the year. I gave it a 5 out of 5 when it dropped, and I fucking stand by that. It's a fucking amazing record. It's a fucking perfect record. Album number 3 on my list is Skin Show, the 4th studio album from American alternative blackened synth metal band The Lion's Daughter. If that description makes no sense, it's because there's a lot about The Lion's Daughter that doesn't make a lot of fucking sense. Initially starting off as a more straightforward kind of sludge metal band with some black metal elements and spices, they have since transitioned on subsequent albums into, well, whatever the fuck I just said before, bringing in synthesizers, 80s vibes and drums, darker lyrics, darker storytelling, weirder production, and it has culminated to create Skin Show, their best album yet, and obviously, since it's here, one of the best albums of the year. This album feels like walking through Arkham Asylum, but if it was set in an 80s horror film. Industrial and synth-pop arrangements and atmospheres and soundscapes collide and fuse with black metal and alternative metal and sludge metal influences in chaotic and invigorating fashion. Tracks like Become the Night, Werewolf Hospital, Sex Trap, The Chemist, Neon Teeth are unpredictable, incredibly catchy, incredibly entertaining, a little spooky at times, but not to the point where it's especially overwhelming. It's like a fun, campy spooky, you know? It's without question one of the most unique albums of the year, sonically and conceptually. In the hands of a less talented band, this material could have easily been just a bunch of laughable, mediocre tripe. Thankfully, Lion's Daughter, mad fucking talented. Hence why they're here. Hence why this album is here. Duh. Fucking obviously. Album number 4 on this list is And Again Into the Light from Panopticon. Panopticon have been putting out Appalachian blackened folk metal as beautiful as the mountains and hills and valleys that inspired them for as long as I can remember, and this album is no exception. But there's something about the circumstances in which this album was created, and the circumstances in which I listened to this album, that made this all the more cathartic and emotional and devastating. Panopticon's mastermind, Austin Lung, bears his soul on this record, dedicating songs to his wife, talking openly about his mental health, his loneliness, his despair, but also about his journey to get better and to be happier. This is not black metal born solely out of hatred and strife and violence. It's black metal born out of light, out of hope, out of perseverance, out of love. And when this album dropped, when it saw the light of day, Ontario was still under strict lockdown protocol. A COVID-19 vaccine had not yet been made available to me. I was unable to work. I was unable to see my friends or my family. I was unable to blow off steam at a bar, a restaurant, a movie theater. Y'all Americans are far more lucky than you want to fucking realize. And as such, I needed an escape. And Panopticon provided that to me through this record. Suddenly, I was no longer in my lonely basement apartment. Suddenly, I was transported almost magically, instantaneously, to the top of the Appalachian Mountains that continue to inspire Panopticon's work. And on a very personal level, I was transported to the Tennessee log cabins that I did call my home for a brief period as a child. I was reminded of holidays spent in Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I was reminded of road trips through North and South Carolina and Kentucky. I was reminded of the majesty of the Appalachian and Smoky Mountains. I was reminded of a much simpler and more comfortable and more innocent time. And I really, really needed that. And honestly, I still kind of need that. I love this album. I love where it takes me emotionally, spiritually. I love how majestic the record is. I love the production. I love how raw and ferocious and unabashed it is. I love how transparent Austin is emotionally and spiritually on this record. And the music itself is just beautiful. Shades of bluegrass and Americana infused all through righteous, melodic, and atmospheric black metal. Just fucking invigorating shit. I gave this album a 5 out of 5 as well when it came out. Honest to God, this is probably my #1 album of the year. It's exactly what I needed to combat the dystopian, nightmarish hellscape that is 2021. Thank you, Panopticon. Fucking thank you. Album number 5 on my list is coincidentally the 5th studio album from German metal crew Lantlows, entitled Wild Hund. These once veterans and underdogs and pioneers of post-black metal and black gaze have fully abandoned the genre in favor of a new sound inspired by post-metal, progressive metal, alternative metal, inspired by Devin Townsend, Hum, The Smashing Pumpkins, Deftones, Baroness, Floor, Intronaut, Cynic, and many fucking more. And thank God for it, because holy shit, this album is beautiful. Dazzling, shimmering melodies, harmonies, choruses across the record. The riffs are dense and sludgy, but are weirdly quite soft at the same time and relaxing, you know? It's like being smothered to death by the world's softest pillow. It's angular, obtuse, unpredictable, incredibly imaginative. The production is nothing short of incredible. I would argue production-wise, this maybe is the best album of the year. Its diversity, its atmosphere, its emotional honesty and rawness is spectacular, and it makes for a genuinely thrilling experience, even when the songs themselves are quite calm and tranquil and peaceful. We've seen a lot of black gaze bands in recent memory try to move away from the genre, with Death Heaven having made a pretty straightforward post-rock shoegaze record, and with Ghostbath having gone in the complete opposite direction, embracing depressive, suicidal black metal on their most recent album. But none of these black gaze bands have transitioned as successfully and as creatively as Lantlows. It took them like 7 or 8 years to release this album, and honestly, they can take just as long, if not longer, if necessary, to release the next album, because if it's even half as good as this, it'll be worth every fucking millisecond of waiting. I'm a patient guy, Lantlows. Take all the time you need. Album number 6 on my list is Colors 2, the 10th studio album from American progressive metal band Between the Buried and Me, and an unexpected but much desired sequel to their 2007 record, Colors, which I would honestly happily describe as one of the best prog metal albums ever made. Which is why what I'm about to say is an especially bold statement, because as good as Colors is, honestly, I think Colors 2 might be even better. Let's put it this way. The original album is Terminator, but this is Terminator 2 Judgment Day. The original album is Batman Begins, but this is The Dark Knight. The original album is Alien, but this is Aliens. Why not Alien 2? What's the problem with just calling it Alien 2? The point is, this does everything a great sequel should do. It expands the story, it expands the themes in ways that are both appropriate, exciting, and unique. It is bigger, bolder, more epic, more funky, more triumphant. The production is absolutely immaculate. Everything is crystal clear, even despite the inherent chaos of this entire project. There are insane guitar riffs and melodies and bass lines prominently on display. The album is remarkably diverse and flexible, almost giving the likes of Diablo Swing Orchestra a run for their money. There are technical, thrashy breakdowns and barrages on par with what I would expect from Voivod. There are dramatic, operatic choruses on par with what I would expect from a Broadway musical. There are flourishes of Latin and samba music. There's classic prog rock influences. There are soaring alt-metal melodies and passages, ferocious metalcore riffs and screams. There's so much going on, and the album is so dense and bulky that, in theory, I, of all people, shouldn't be enjoying this as much as I do. But the band is so good at what they do, and everything is so exciting, that I am sitting here in my seat enjoying every moment of it without even realizing that 80 fucking minutes have gone by. Like, as some of y'all know, I can get kind of squirmy when an album goes past the 45-minute mark. I sat here for nearly double that fucking time in a single sitting, didn't need a drink, didn't need a distraction, nothing, just sat here and enjoyed the record for what it was, and you know what I did right after that? I pressed play all over again. And then I bought the motherfucker on vinyl, and now I just play it all the goddamn time. A better sequel to the original Colors could not be made, even if Between the Buried and Me themselves were put up to the task. This is an incredible fucking record, the best prog metal album of 2021, no debate whatsoever on that, and perhaps one of the best prog metal albums of all fucking time. I love it. It's amazing. Album number 7 on my list is, once again, sheer coincidence, the 7th studio album from English extreme metal pioneers, veterans, champions, masters, Carcass. It's called Torn Arteries. Guess what? It fucking slaps from start to finish. End of fucking story. I mean, do I even really need to explain why this is here? It's motherfucking Carcass doing what motherfucking Carcass be doing best. What they been be doing best since their fucking inception, which is being Carcass. Much like the band's previous studio album, Surgical Steel, Torn Arteries feels like a culmination of everything Carcass have done up to this point, but with a heavier emphasis on influences, I would say, from Necroticism and Swan Song. It's ridiculously catchy, super heavy. I like how much more muscular and sharp and gritty the production is in comparison to the more pristine and clean Surgical Steel. Jeff Walker and Bill Steer are not showing their age at all for any one moment across this entire record. There are still tons of inventive, bluesy, intoxicating riffs, tons of pummeling rhythms, sneering, acidic vocals. There's some ambitious songwriting, like some of the lengthiest, bulkiest, and dare I say most progressive material Carcass has ever made is on this record. Namely, the nearly 10-minute flesh-ripping Sonic Tormented, which is unironically one of the best songs on this album and one of the best songs of 2021. I also appreciate the cheeky, grotesque, almost comic book humor across the record through the lyrics and through the song titles. I love the album artwork as well. I really just love everything about this album. I mean, it's fucking Carcass. What is not to love? It's funny, people always assume that I just despise older metal bands because I'm not going to sit here and just lavish endless praise upon Exodus and Iron Maiden and Overkill and Anvil for basically regurgitating what is exactly expected of them at this point in time. I mean, I don't hate these bands, but they're just doing the same thing over and over again, and they're not getting better at it. Carcass, on the other hand, is, which is why I have no doubt that the next album Carcass puts out will also be in my top 10 whatever year it is fucking released, because nobody can beat Carcass. Don't bother trying. You won't. You will fail. You will fall flat on your ass, and I will laugh at you when that happens. Fair warning. Album number 8 on my list is Foreverglade from Worm, their debut on 20 Buck Spin. We've been following these guys for a while now. They've put out tons of demos and tapes and other albums as well that we have talked about in some capacity, but this is the first time we did a full video review, and I'm happy we did because, oh my god, what an amazing record. Some of the most grotesque, in-your-face, disturbing death doom I've heard, not just in 2021, but I think maybe ever. This is some really sick, twisted fucking shit here. The riffs are caked in static and mold and blood and pus. The vocals are acidic, venomous, genuinely disturbing. There are synthesizers, atmospheric passages, and barrages clearly inspired by Norwegian black metal that send genuine shivers down my fucking spine. There are guitar solos that are absolutely demented. There are elongated passages that bring to mind a level of tension I would expect from some kind of incredibly grotesque exploitative horror film. And much like a grotesque exploitative horror film, I can't help but stay glued to the madness. I can't look away. Looking away feels like a disservice. Like, I'm kind of doing like... You know what I mean? Like, if this album were any more gnarly, it'd be crawling out of bog water in Florida. If this thing were any more disgusting, it would be put on some government watch list. If this thing were any more twisted, I would buy a fucking gun because I'd be concerned that it would actually break into my home and murder me. Without question, one of the most brutal and abhorrently disgusting and psychotic records of 2021, any death doom band worth their fucking salt should be paying very close attention to these motherfuckers going forward, because otherwise they risk being buried, quite literally, by Worm. Album number 9 on my list is Blood Moon 1, the collaborative effort from Converge and Chelsea Wolfe. What a cinematic, chaotic, horrifying, beautiful display of, I don't know, metalcore, symphonic, blackened post-goth metal? I don't know. There's a lot going on this record. There's a full orchestra, there's saxophone, there are tranquil melodies and very technical and intense and frenzied arrangements, not too dissimilar from what I'd expect maybe of a classic Converge record or even something more modern like Black Midi. The lyricism is very intense, very poetic, very introspective, but also very spiritual, very ritualistic. The album often plays out like some kind of satanic prayer. Chelsea's vocals pair beautifully with those of Jacob Bannon's. They really take advantage of each other's strengths and even weaknesses. They challenge each other throughout the record to go into weirder and different territory. And it makes for one hell of an experience. I cannot believe that Converge are still continuing to innovate metal this late in the game. I mean, my fucking god, they truly are masters of their craft. And it's amazing to see Chelsea Wolfe push herself into heavier and darker territory sonically. And it's great to see the likes of Ben Chisholm and Stephen Brodsky along for the ride as well, going into weirder, darker, more expansive territory themselves. Like, it's been a while since Stephen has put out anything or been a part of anything this twisted and ambitious, in my opinion. I did an album review of this pretty recently, and I went pretty fucking in depth, so I'm going to intentionally keep things short here. All you need to know is that this is one of the best albums of 2021, and if you haven't listened to it, you fucking need to already. Here's hoping, as the title implies, that there is a Blood Moon 2 on the way, and that it doesn't take too long to hit shelves. Because, oh my god, if this is what they're doing on part 1, imagine what they're doing on part 2. And this brings us to album number 10, an album that was added, may I add, at the last possible moment. It is the one, the only Tales of Other Time from Stormkeep. We literally just talked about this album in an Albums I Missed video that went up, what, 2-3 days ago? Something like that? I don't know. I'm recording this in advance. I'm not really sure how the timetable is going to play out. The point is, we pretty much just talked about it, and now here we are talking about it again. Why is that? Here's why. It's the best black metal album of 2021. Epic, adventurous, sword-swinging, almost medieval melodic black metal, not too dissimilar from what I would expect from the glory days of Emperor, Dissection, maybe a little bit of Enslaved as well, with soaring vocals, incredible triumphant melodies, and barrages of true Norwegian fucking darkness. I listened to this album a couple of times in preparation for the Albums I Missed video. I didn't have time to do a full video review, unfortunately, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was kind of like, oh my god, maybe this is one of the best albums of the year. And so I kept coming back to it. And every time I did, I found beautiful little nuggets of epic Norwegian underground melodic and symphonic black metal fury that were impossible to fucking ignore. I mean, how could you? There has to be something mentally, psychologically wrong with you to ignore the bona fide jams consistently on display throughout this record. And remarkably, this is only the band's debut album, and even more remarkably, this is the brainchild of a gentleman who already has released some stunning material, a gentleman by the name of Isaac Falk, best known as the drummer for Wayfarer and Blood Incantation. But here, he's handling vocals, guitars, keyboards, and virtually everything else, ironically, except drums. The idea of a drummer moving on to such an ambitious project and taking on so many different roles is inherently kind of scary in a post-psychosexual, psycho-sinner, Jeremy Spencer, Devil Daddy world, but clearly Isaac knows exactly what the fuck he's doing. He's done his homework. He knows what he wants to put on this record, and he knows exactly how to churn it out to make it as appealing, as unique, as exciting, and as invigorating as possible. One of the best black metal albums of the year, if not the best, at least as far as classic true black metal is concerned. I love it. You probably do too, but in case you don't, you probably will. Just give it another shot, honestly. Everyone seems to be in love with this album, so this should not be in and of itself an especially surprising choice. But just in case, go listen to it again or for the first time. You get the idea. Go do it. Go listen to all these albums because holy shit, we are actually at the end of this video. Oh my god. But not the end of 2021. There are plenty of goodies, plenty of surprises along the way. The top 10 best non-metal albums of the year, the top 5 worst metal albums of the year. Anna and Chompy, for the first time ever, are gonna have their own top 10. Oh my god, and I actually have no idea what's gonna be on that list. I really, truly do not fucking know. So if you want updates on all this stuff and all kinds of other stupid nonsense we're gonna be putting out in the next few weeks to kill time because there's no other new music to talk about, what you need to do is you need to press subscribe right here. You need to follow the Metal Meltdown so you get updates fucking immediately. You need to tell me what your top 10 are of 2021, and as always, you need to have yourself a fantastic fucking day. That one isn't as much related to the rest, but you get the idea. I think you do. Thank you for watching. Thank you for an incredible year. Once again, subscribe, booyah, have a wonderful fucking day. A fantastic fucking day.